Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the part of the world and whenever you are listening. Welcome to the 38th episode of the Divine Mess. And today we have the pleasure of having another guest on our podcast. It's like the series of guests. We have opened our virtual couch to people who are like on the spiritual journey just like us and who are being in service to the world in different ways. And we were curious about to know how they do it using their divine feminine and divine masculine energies to help people. So if this is your first time, I'm Kirti Deva Perman, also known as Deva. I'm the cosmic guide at Heroes Mystic Life Coaching, where we help you to slay your inner demons, face up, elevate your hero within you, and then go in the world and serve others as well. And like every single week, I'm joined by my lovely co-host from far, far, far away from me, like
It's not
eight
that
hours
far.
away by flight, Tina Ryan. She will have the pleasure to introduce our guest today. That's what she said before.
Was it really? Gee, thanks for that, gorgeous. Loving that one. Good morning, everybody. Tina Marie, co-host to this crazy nut that I sit next to every week, whom I speak to more often than anybody else, I think, on the planet. And I constantly annoy him with memes because that's what you do with your best friend. Send them crazy stuff all the time. I'm an intuitive strategist and I love helping women tap into their intuition and also the guys as well, because I'm a mother of four boys and I think it's very important for them to trust what their bodies are telling them. So today we are joined by the lovely Elissa Wilson, who has been on her own little spiritual sojourn for quite some time, and she's going to give us some advice on how others can start their journey. So welcome to the Divine Miss Couch, Elissa. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love this go with the flow kind of structure, just like throwing it all around. Who's going to catch the ball next?
Correct. It's very much so. If you would love to, I suppose, kick us off with, when did your spiritual awakening kick in the butt? As for most people, it's normally a good old big slap in the back of the head because none of us have been paying attention for a while. So when did yours kick off?
Oh, great question. I feel like mine was a really, really slow sort of death rebirth process with probably about a good 12 months sort of doing both at the same time sort of process. And it all kicked off probably about eight or so years ago now, when I just really felt within myself that I was really sort of emotionally numb. I just felt empty. I felt unfulfilled. On paper, outside looking in, I was quite successful. I could travel. I was studying. I had a great little business. Life was sort of looking pretty good. But I was able to, I guess, fool myself into thinking that I had it all. But yeah, just this slow awakening of just how empty and unfulfilled I was in just about every aspect of my life. And that led me to begin, studying different things and exploring, and, going into some study actually brought up a lot of trauma. And like, that was really interesting to deal with as well, because I wasn't quite ready. I think I really sort of jumped into the deep end and didn't have any support to get myself out. Even though support was available, I wasn't able to access it because of my own trauma. So it did take me quite a while to sort of come back out of that. And yeah, that was sort of just the beginning. And yeah, it was this sort of long, slow descent. I was really dysfunctional at times, really not in a healthy way. And yeah, just through ultimately just coming back to myself and being self-sourced and developing my own self-agency and self-sovereignty, that was what was able to bring me out. And ironically, I actually needed other people and community to help me do that.
Strange that, isn't it? Us, we are not good at asking for help, you know, doing that whole, hello, could you with some help? I'm drowning over here. I look like my life is fabulous, but it's really a big heaping mess of rubbish.
Yeah. And I was such an island, like historically, I'm such an island of like, I've got this, I can do it by myself. All of those stories, which yes, are true. And also, you know, we do need people. We're human beings, we're wired to connect with people. And it's still a practice for me to notice when I'm isolating and to lean in and, you know, reach out to people for support as well.
Yeah, because sometimes it's we as women, dependent on our circumstance, trauma, lean very heavily into the masculine. Like, you know, it's been shown to us that that's what we need to do in order to get shit done, because we can't rely on the beautiful male species to elevate and lift their game. That was the experience that I had. I now have a very different experience. However, those pathways that are ground into us, they take some time in diverting and choosing new pathway or new thought processes of not, you know, getting hyper anxious when your partner's making the bed, or you know, when he's doing a load of laundry, or those sorts of things, because it, you know, it's so ingrained in that I have to be able to do all of these things and not ask anybody for help, because I can apparently stick a broom up my butt and handle child rearing and handle cleaning the house and have a full-time job and then we wonder why we end up in heaving messes on our kitchen floors.
Absolutely. And that was my experience. Like what I know of myself now is I have this deep, very feminine core, and wearing this kind of masculine mask just so that I could like survive in this world. And it just wasn't my truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And how have you found that transition to being a little softer and to relying on your feminine intuition and your art of being? How has that worked for you when you work in such a masculine environment currently?
Yeah, for me now, what I can say is just that recognition of, yes, I have a feminine core, and we all also embody the full spectrum of masculine and feminine, and just how important like structure is, which is quite a masculine thing. And if I do have a structure, that means I can allow the feminine part of myself just to be whatever it needs to be. So learning for me the healthy aspects of what the masculine and the feminine are, and knowing when to embody each of them in what way, so that I'm able to hold both parts within myself. And also like in relationships, you know, especially like intimate partnerships, being able to ask a masculine male partner to hold the structure a little bit more, so that I can be invited into my feminine flow. Yeah, and it's really interesting because, you know, I was certainly brought up in that time where women sort of, we could do anything. And it's all like such a masculine power, like we can do anything, and it was so fierce, and I'm fiercely independent. And And it was sort of like anti-feminist to want to just surrender into the feminine and to have masculine lead. So yeah, that was definitely a big sort of rewiring. And the feminine part of myself does want to surrender. Doesn't mean I want somebody to tell me what to do, but it does mean I'm looking for some structure, a container for me to be able to express the feminine parts of myself through.
Yeah. And now the new sort of role that you're stepping into, what does that look like for you and for your clients that you're looking to invite in?
Yeah, so now for me, it's really, I feel like I'm just a guide, allowing, and it's like I'm the masculine, I'm the structure, I'm holding that container for whoever's inside it to just be able to unravel, get a little bit messy, and explore like what is true for them. What is their balance of the masculine and feminine? How can they reach into their own sense of self-agency and sovereignty and tap into their intuition? And the way that they do that is going to be different from the way that I tap into it. And yeah, all I need to do is just hold a container in a space and just reflect back and offer different versions, different ways, different perspectives. Okay, well, that's not working for you. Let's go stand over here and look at it from this way. Yep. Oh, that's not working. That's not quite right. Okay, what if we change position and look over here and stand it this other way? So yeah, I see my role in that as very much just a torchbearer, and shining the light and opening up possibility for other people to explore what's true for them.
And do you find it easier now when you are out and about to identify people that you kind of go, oh, I'd like to dive into?
I found like through this whole journey, it's so much easier to see your own dysfunctional behavior played out when other people do it.
Oh yeah.
So much easier. It's like, oh, they're being such and such, they're doing that thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's that thing I do. So yes, I definitely am able to just see and be able to witness people in their own dysfunction and not see like the behavior that is less than ideal, generally speaking, when we're talking about a dysfunctional pattern. And yeah, just know that underneath that, like, it's coming from a place of just being unskilled in navigating the thoughts and feelings and emotions and sensations that are happening in their body at that time.
Yeah, or not prepared to look, like, or that the doors to Narnia are far too scary to open, and I really don't want to play in that cupboard. Thank you very much. So I'll just lock it and bolt it and just hope that all the stuff doesn't ooze out the sides and start to taint everything. And I suppose that's the message that we regularly share, is just ease it open just a fraction. You don't have to cause a flood. You just have to be prepared to look at, like you say, your patterns of behavior, your languaging, the things that you consume, whether it's food, people, media, whatever it happens to be. You have to be mindful of the impact that has on you and the impact that you want to have on the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is scary and it's uncomfortable. And I think we're just not trained, and we're increasingly trained to avoid being uncomfortable and to avoid the discomfort and push away from pain, where like that's where the juice is, that's where the gold is. And it doesn't mean like, I said at the beginning, I went on this like years-long sort of depth of a death cycle because I was kicking and screaming the whole way.
If it had surrendered, as my friend tells me all the time, just surrender, team, just trust, do a trust fall. It's all going to be fine.
Exactly. And if I just had the people around me that I knew would just accept and witness me in my dysfunctional messiness, I would have got through it so much quicker. So yeah, it's a scary thing to step into, because you're looking at like some pretty, not very nice stuff about yourself potentially, and the way that you've treated other people and behaved in relationships. But at the end of the day, you're just going to keep doing those same kind of things until you bring awareness to it and then make a choice. Do you want something different?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've got some amazing insights in there, my friend. You're just sitting there waiting. I know, I can see it.
I'm just enjoying the conversation because that's beautiful, like the sharing of it, like Eliza, like, like your journey, when you say like it was like a slow, it felt like dragging, and I could like literally see you on that journey, like you're kicking and screaming and sitting on the side and say, no, I don't want to move. What are you going to do? It's like you're telling the universe, like, what are you going to do? And I feel that that's what happened on our spiritual journey every time, right? And it's our ego saying that. I feel that's my perspective, is like it's our ego is saying like, this is not nice about us, like this is wrong. But whereas our soul will be like, no, you are who you are, like it sees the light within you, it sees the love within you. That's the truth at the core, right? And that's what you were talking about, the tapping into the core feminine energy. And I'm just curious, like how do you help your clients? If you can just give like one practical tip, like how, because a lot of women listening to the podcast, they will be asking, yeah, I can resonate with that. But how do I stop and hold the mirror for myself and see the things that are not nice, quote unquote, within myself?
Yeah. I think if you're definitely able to notice that you're in a dysfunctional pattern that you would like to change, like that's the biggest thing, like knowing that you're actually in it, is then to just sort of step back out of it and to become the witness, if possible, so that you're not so entangled in what it is that's happening, and come out, just be the witness. And it is just what it is. It's come up from trauma, it's come up from social conditioning. For whatever reason, that dysfunctional behavior is playing out. And if you can just come out of it and just, with some compassion and soft heart, just go, okay, I'm doing, like, what's under the reason that this is playing out, and just getting curious as to find out what's triggering this. And there might be like a few different layers until you sort of start to get an understanding of what it is. But yeah, it really is just being able to compassionately witness yourself at a meta, at a bigger picture level, and for it just to be okay for what it has been, what it is. You can choose something differently. And will you choose something differently straight away? Probably not. You'll go back into that same behavior again, but that's also okay, because every time you do it, you'll get more and more awareness of doing it. And yeah, it is just a muscle to work out. You'll get, the more you're able to witness yourself in it, the more compassionate awareness you can bring, the transition and the change will gently happen over time as well. But for me, like working with people, it really is just encouraging them to connect with their truth. Like this is the truth, or their truth in that moment, and that's completely valid and okay. And what's under that, and also what do they really want? What are they yearning for? What are they not receiving that they really, really want? And exploring that and making that okay. And just following the breadcrumbs from there.
It's an interesting question, though. I think when you ask a lot of people, what do you actually want? Most people can't answer. They've not given themselves time and space to ask that question of themselves.
Yeah.
So it's that in the minutiae, you know, it's in the little bits of going, do you want a cup of tea or do you want a cup of coffee? You know, you've got to break it right down into something really, really small for them to sort of, like you say, build that intuitive knowledge and understanding, but do it in the smallest building blocks. And then once they start to understand what it feels like for them in their body, because for everybody it feels very different, to then be able to sort of start to stack those blocks up into something bigger. But I to wind back when you were talking about starting your journey, did you have somebody or an event or something that, you know, pointed out to you that, hey, maybe you could be doing this life a little bit better? Or was there somebody that you went, that looks like a better version of what I could be doing, you know, for it to sort of act as a mirror and going, this isn't really the way I want it to be? And, you know, utilizing them as, I don't know, a mentor or an ideal or something along those lines to help you kickstart or, you know, give you the spiritual kick in the butt.
Yeah, great question. And for me, I don't think it was really any one thing. I felt like, for me, it's a very like slow awakening. Like this work in my experience has definitely not been and I so wanted it to be where you just flick on a light switch and that all of a sudden the heavens open and the angels are singing, and you know, that's what I think I was chasing for so long, before I realized actually the light switch is already on. I just got to turn the dimmer up. But yeah, to come back to the question, I have a very clear memory of, I felt like there was a whole 12-month period where I had this feeling over and over again, but just one day in particular where I just felt like I wanted to cry. And I just, for the life of me, couldn't. Like the best I could do was like sit in the bottom of the shower and like squeeze out a tear. But I just felt like so much grief within inside of me that just couldn't come out. And I think that experience combined with starting to, well, I had an invitation through an email. I'd done an online course with somebody. And when I say I did an online course, I think I did the first module, maybe did the first module 3 times, never actually finished it. And then I received another email and they were launching a coaching program. And just, I guess, the life that was starting to point to, the way, like, I just opened the door to possibility that I didn't have to be living where I was living, how I was living in that structure, that other people are actually living quite different lives. And I think those two things combined were that real sort of door cracked enough open for me to slide through and fall down the rabbit hole.
Yes, and it's one of those things that people sort of ask us on a regular basis, like, I thought I dealt with that. Like, I thought I dealt with that. And we're like, yeah, but it's called a cyclic pattern for a reason, because we go, around, and then we get jabbed again by someone else pointing out something, and we go, oh, okay, maybe I haven't dealt with it as well as I thought I had. Or you just have a different awareness, like you say, to the patterns and the habits and the things that you're doing that may not be as healthy as they could be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting, like, you know, I'm currently going through a bit of a process at the moment where for like so long now, I've been saying to people, you know, just ask for what you need. Like if something's not working for you, just ask for what you need. And it's been pointed out to me some dysfunctional behavior that I've been exhibiting lately, that when I step out of it and like have that bigger look at, okay, well, what's actually happening when I do that thing? What am I not getting? What am I not doing? Oh, I'm not asking for what I need. Hello. So now I have that awareness. Okay, when I'm feeling that way, and for me, like when I'm, it was like a frustration in my body. When I'm feeling frustrated, okay, that's me having my boundary crossed. That's me not stepping up to my boundary and saying, oh, this is actually what I need. You need to stay over there. This is like, yeah, you're coming into space that I'm not comfortable with. And actually, we need to have an awkward conversation. Mm-hmm. Which, of course, it's so much easier for me to fly into frustration than actually have an awkward conversation.
Yeah, and it's like you have said before, the things that we avoid, if we just ripped the Band-Aid off and dealt with the situation and just said, you know what, could you just bloody not leave the toilet seat up, or could you just put your dishes in the dishwasher, or could you fill the car up when you've finished with it? You know, just it's those little things, like we say, when we're on that spiritual journey, we do it in the minutiae, but it's the minutiae of work relationships or personal relationships or with your kids or whatever it happens to be. It's the little things that all stack up. And if we're not keeping our boundaries of what we feel is okay, then it gets to the point where you have an explosive person and everybody goes, where the hell did that come from? You know, like that seems to come out of nowhere, but Mama gets really bloody cranky when other people don't clean up after. But then I also have to remember I need to clean up after myself too. You know, it's all very well to be judgy, but if you're not following the same process, then you can't.
Yeah, and generally too, like whatever it is that you know, flip your lid at or have that explosion about, whatever was the straw on that camel's back, it's not what it's really about. It's about something else. So again, it's being able to take that step back and go, okay, what was actually behind that? And how can I bring some compassion to my dysfunctional behavior and also ask for what I need?
Yeah.
And also, you know, when you're seeing somebody else in a bit of a dysfunctional behavior as well, instead of going straight into defense mode, again, practicing like being able to take that little step back and go, okay, like they're really cranky at me for something. Maybe it's just I've crossed a boundary that I didn't know was there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just not asking for what they need. Maybe there's something else going on here. Like it's not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 99% of the time it is something that they're dealing with. But if you have a feeling on the inside that maybe you've acted like a bit of a numpty, then maybe you do need to have a look at yourself. But if you were suggesting to people, you know, 3 of your favorite things that you utilize on a daily or a weekly practice, whether it, you know, what are your go-to tools that you like to use for yourself, that you obviously like to then pass that information on to your clients.
You may be able to tell, being called the ritual woman, I love rituals. And for me, anything can be a ritual. Like, you know, I love tea. Tea's my thing. Every time I have a cup of tea, it's a ritual. And what ritual means to me really is taking any mundane task and just bringing some reverence and awareness to the process. Like, you can just go make a cup of tea, or I can take a moment to be present with my body and go, oh, what kind of tea would I really love to drink today? And I can choose the tea, and I can choose the cup I want to drink out of and how I want to make it. And I can choose when before I take my first sip, to smell it and look at it and feel it, and like really invite all of those senses. And it kind of sounds like it's a big long process to do all of these things, and at the beginning it might feel a little clunky, but it's just, for me now, like, drinking a cup of tea is such a full-bodied experience. And that reminds me, like, to connect with my body, connect with my heart, connect with my intuition. So for me, practicing ritual in as many different ways as I can through all the different tasks I do helps me stay connected to my body and myself. So that's definitely something that I help people find their own way into, is creating those rituals. And I just love anything that does connect to your body. So movement, ecstatic dance, nonlinear movement, breath work, even like doing when I'm working, or even doing like this podcast, like I'm standing up and I can move, and it just, like, for me, that's that feminine part of me that just wants to be in flow, and it enables me to, shake things out if I need to, or just like get a gentle sway going if I need to. So just being able to move is being really helpful for me to process things through my body as well. So they're my top two things.
Top two. How about you, Mr. D? What are your top two or top three things that you like to do? I know like going to the beach is your thing, but
That's number one.
Yeah.
That would be number one. Like, just like Eliza was saying, like, like just being in the flow. Maybe that, for me, that will be going to the beach, like just to be in that moment and just feeling. I enjoy watching the waves. It's like coming back and forth, and for me, it's like that cleansing process. It's like mother guy is like coming and take something away from you, and it's like that negative energy, and then it's coming back with positive energy, and it's like that cleansing process, which I like. Definitely meditation would be the other one, just connecting with the higher self and different beings out there. So it depends on the days as well. Like for me, for religious purposes as well, there's a few like cosmic being that I will particularly connect on that day, because we do have special rituals for different gods. Since like in Hindu, we do have over 1 million gods or plus. I think it's over that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that we know of. So there's a lot of like rituals that we do practice. But for me, it's more about like, it's not the religious part as such. It's just like the connection with the higher self, because from my understanding in Hinduism is like, even how many gods you have out there, it's just one source, like it's just like Eliza was saying, like that torch or light. It's you who choose to put it, the dimmer, like play with the dimmer, put it on or off, or you want to make it brighter. It's you. So it's all about connecting with oneself, and that's what I look for, and that's what I aim for. My intention, like for meditation will be into that. Yeah. And I really like the analogy, like of being the torch bearer. I really like that as well. That's something I wanted to point out to people listening, like, because I know Elissa work a lot with people who are starting their journey or spiritual journey, like, and how it's overwhelming, and how we all been there, and we all need people like her, like, to guide us, to be the torch bearer, because she hold that space as well, and that's, I wanted, like, this moment to remind people that's what our coach, as coach, we do as well. As sometimes it's like holding that space for people to tap in maybe more into the feminine energy, to understand yourself more and tapping with your higher self, and then once you get the guidance coming through, it's tapping into the masculine, where you take that inspired action. And I feel that's what we all are doing, like, when we are sharing our tips. And now it's going back to Tina's famous, like, five tips Tina is going to give.
5 now. Well, okay. Well, I suppose for me it's movement, like Elissa said, that in the morning I have to, I'm nearly 50 years old. I need to move my body, even though it creaks and groans and moans at me. I find that after I have done that, I feel that I've taken time for myself. Then I have time to give to other people. And then the next is about nourishing my body. So it's my green goop or my purple goop or whatever happens to go into the Thermomix in the morning to get the day started. It's using my tarot cards. It's taking that 10 minutes to sit and meditate. It does not have to be long. Just whack a guided meditation on, sit up against the bed and just give yourself 10 minutes. Don't be in a race to get out the front door in the morning. Just give yourself that time to get grounded and get centered and set an, like you say, set an intention for the day. And then for me, music is my other thing, where it helps to boost my mood or to calm me down or to just notice and witness the drive, like the window being down and the fresh air on my skin and the sunshine coming through the sunroof, and just a sensual space in which I'm going from one space to the next, and noticing, being a witness to all the things that are around me, where most people wouldn't see the butterfly going past, or they wouldn't see the angel numbers on someone's number plate, or the inspirational words that come from the God Squad that will be somewhere on a billboard or the side of somebody's car, or someone walking down the street with a t-shirt on, and you go, oh, okay, thank you very much. It's having a level of awareness of knowing that your questions will be answered, but it's not going to come in the way that you think it will.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can't manufacture how it's going to turn up. We have to surrender and trust and have some patience, and all my life lessons come up every single day. And just to take a seat and know that what is meant for you will not pass you by. So there you go. There's more than 5.
You're very practiced at that. It was wonderful.
Overachiever now.
I'm a mother of 4 boys. I have to be an overachiever.
But that's beautiful what you shared, like how you tap into the feminine energy, like just to be with yourself and just to remind yourself that everything is being taken care of, like in terms of the universe, and just surrender, like we love to say, surrender to that.
Favorite word.
But I was just curious because I know, like, Elissa is like she talked about the power of ritual in relationship. And for me, I was like thinking of the relationship between the masculine and the feminine energy. Like, how can people, because when you were talking earlier about you need to step back. So if I'm someone who is like struggling to step back from the situation and I can't look from another perspective, what can I do from the perspective of a ritual or creating a ritual to maybe tap into the feminine, because we know like we need to tap into the feminine and then take that inspired action with the divine masculine. So how would you go about that?
Oh, I think this is something that everybody will find their own way to. And if there's the understanding of that the masculine is very structured, very end game, end results, directional and penetrative kind of energies, and looking at the feminine as being much more sort of, you know, flow, movement, change, transformation sort of energies. If you've got like that little bit of awareness, what is it that inspires you to free up and find movement and change and that kind of thing? For me personally, I'd sit and create a ritual. And again, like the ritual part, like the structure of it becomes the container. So it might be that I sit in a space that I've created that I know is private enough that I can just let myself go in it. So like that would be that structure. And yeah, for me, really allowing those feminine qualities to come through. So putting on some music, tapping into that sensual part aspect of me, finding ways to move and just express that. And I really find movement helps because it sort of shakes things up a little bit. So like a little bit of like biodynamic shaking helps to unlock those energy blockages that potentially are being held in the body. And then after, you know, shaking for a little while, just coming to stillness and just noticing what's coming up. You know, I might want to like laugh hysterically, or I might just want to wail and sob and just have all this grief come up. Or I might want to rage and beat a pillow. So I think just creating a space where it's okay for any of those emotions just to move through was a really good starting point for me, especially because I was so emotionally numb. Like even happy freaked me out. So to create that space where I could be happy and freaked out at the same time, or I could cry and just let that be okay as well, was really important, just to learn to move that emotion or energy in motion and allow it just to come through to completion. That was a really big turning point for me, like to create that ritual and space just to move and then express whatever it was that was coming up at that time.
I think for a lot of people, the safest place normally is getting in the shower. It's a defined space. You've got water that can help you energetically release and let go of things. And it doesn't matter if you've already had 2 showers in a day. You know, if you feel that, do you know what I mean? If you need that space, that privacy, and for most people in most homes, that kind of is the, you know, between that and sitting on the toilet, they are the 2 spaces that are normally the most private in anybody's home, where you feel that nobody else is looking, nobody else is paying attention. So you can have that moment, like you say, if you want to completely lose your shit and sit on the bottom of the shower and let it all go, It's a space where you can, you know, because you can crank the music up and no one gets to hear it if you don't want them to.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very different scenario if you have a space where you can let go in front of somebody, but most people don't. In our Western society, it's not a thing to be done with the wailing and the screaming and the crying and that energetic release. It's not normally a done thing, right? We've got our shit together, you know. We don't need to do these things, but you would find that it's great, so good to just let it all go. Or, you know what, watch a movie that's going to make you cry, and then it'll, you know, it gets it all started. But everybody's got to find their own way. You know, for some people, like you say, it's beating a pillow, or it's beating the Christ out of a boxing bag, or it's going for a really fast walk, or if you're very frustrated, like you've said previously, clean the house like an absolutely crazy person, because that too is good for releasing stuff, opening up all the doors and windows and letting go of whatever it is that's holding you. You can literally sweep it out of your house, run around like a crazy person. Don't set off the smoke detectors with a sage stick and dance all through the sage, with a sage stick around your house to let yourself feel like you have an element of changing what is happening within your own environment. Sometimes we all feel like we have no control, but there are certain things, like there is, those boundaries that we can create within our own homes to go, well, I can control the energy within the environment in which I live. I can do that by setting the intention at the front door and setting the intention at the back door, and then creating a really nice space for everybody who walks within those four walls, that they're going to feel like they're being held. And if you make them a cup of tea and they fall apart at the kitchen table, well, then that's okay too. And we can all do it for ourselves as well as the people that we choose to be around. But, this is the one thing when we start this journey, is that people come and tell you the strangest things in the weirdest places, because, we seem to, like you say, be this light, and when our light is very, very bright, you either get one of two things. You either get people that are trying to literally cut you off at the knees, or you get people that go, I just really want to have a conversation with you. I need to offload, like they verbally vomit everything all over you. So do yourselves a favor, and what is one ritual you would do at the end of the day to get rid of everybody else's funk that's crossed your path?
We've already spoken about it. I go shower.
Yeah.
My bathroom is my haven.
Yeah.
It's such a magical place.
Yeah.
Because like you said before, door can be shut, pop music on, pop a candle on, anything that, works for you. And for me, just that water rushing over me, down the drain and away, like I can just let everything go. And it really is part of the completion. And like that is another thing, not so much just for, being around sort of people, but anytime a project or a situation or an event sort of happens, like I go through this little completion ceremony, because it formalizes and acknowledges it's done.
Yeah.
So I don't have to keep going back in there and like replaying things or working out how things could have been different, making it better, that kind of thing, because I've formally completed it already. So completion ceremonies are something I'm doing increasingly more and more as well. They're really helpful.
I I think like it will be a good time if you guide us through one at this time for a completion ceremony, because we're going towards the end of this hour. So would
Well,
you
I
be
was
open
just thinking the same thing.
Oh dear. It's the kind of thing, like it's just like a series of questions. So, the first question, and they can be changed up a little bit and depending on what's going on and what the thing is, but it's just asking the question, what have I created? What have we created? For me, like, we've created a really wonderful conversation that will be of service to your listeners. And then the next question would be like, what am I over? So I'm over fear I have of not being of service, of not being articulate all of the time, of not having not sharing my wisdom and knowledge. And then the next question would be, what am I going to create now? So for me, I would be wanting to create an opportunity to connect with you both again, maybe even in person.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to share our conversation with people that I'm connected with and introduce them to both of you as well.
Oh, thank you.
That's beautiful.
And that's all the completion ceremony needs to really be. Just
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Like for me, I feel, if that's okay, I will, based on your question that you shared, is like I have created like that space along with Tina to allow people like you who maybe are starting the journey, who has been on that journey and are guiding others, to share their light, how they are being the torch bearers. And I'm overjoyed that you came to share your story. I know it's like part of it, because when we spoke before, there was more to it, and today it went another direction. And we did mention that. I did tell you that, like, we just never know where it goes. And creating, like, in the future will be like having more of those conversation and going deeper, going deeper into maybe like another episode where you can share more about, I know you have different topics that you have a list, that you can share about, and also sharing about your women's ritual, right, circle that you hold, and talking more about that as well in the maybe another episode, if you're open to come on board with those two crazy people that sometimes we just put you on the spot. So thank you so much for being part of it. And Tina is going to share now.
Well, as you have so eloquently shared, we have completed a really beautiful space to talk about the stuff we love to talk about. And there's an immense amount of gratitude to be able to talk to my bestie on a regular, and also to talk to other like-minded light workers who are being brave enough, like the two of us, in flying their freak flag, as I like to affectionately say, and lead the way in doing life differently. I would say I'm a little bit over the 3D of life, and that people only seeing things on the surface and not being prepared to look deeper at their own shiz to try and get to root causes of things. But you can only lead people so far, in that they have to unwind their own crap at their own speed. And yes, women's circles, tell me more about that. So we'll connect up, and because I think there's nothing more sacred than women sitting in circle, and also for men too. You know, they would be amazed. You should start something in NZ, because I think there would be a great calling for men to be able to sit around a fire pit and share their stuff, you know, because guys are not the best at doing it. Us women, give us a cup of tea or a gin and tonic, and we're quite quick to start sharing. So we are so very appreciative of you taking the time this morning to come and have a conversation on the Divine Mess couch with us both, and we look forward to hearing from you again really soon. But until next week, we love you. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you really soon. Until then, take care.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Yeah, thank you for coming, and we are looking forward to see you next time as well. If you're most welcome to come back and just share more about yourself and your journey as well. We are keen to know about that. So thank you so much, and everyone else, we'll see you next week with another guest again. So thank you.
Thank you.